Hey, how you doing out there in YouTube land? The Stiletto coming at you from the Wild Wild West. Today is Thursday, February 18th. And today is going to be a Stiletto Thursday. It's going to be a Stiletto Thursday. By request of Keith. I'm not going to try to say your last name, Keith, because I don't know how to say your last name, so I don't want to say it wrong. But on request of Keith, he wanted to see a comparison between Ti-Lites, 13-inch Ti-Lites, and 13-inch Italian stilettos. And this is a Armando Beltrami 13-inch stiletto. It has a dagger grind. And these are swivel bolsters. Both of these are swivel bolsters. It has a horn scales, bullhorn scales. With stainless steel bolsters, swivel bolsters. Swivel bolsters work like this. You push down on this. You push down on one side of the bolster, and the blade closes. It has brass pins holding on the bullhorn scales, and brass pins holding on the rear stainless steel bolster. But the front pivot is stainless steel, and it's all riveted together. These pieces right here, the bolsters, these aren't solid. These are the hollow ones. I don't know if you can sort of see what I'm talking about. They're not solid stainless steel. That would make it really heavy if it was. This is actually a pretty nice weight. 13-inch. 13-inch stilettos are one of my favorites. Most of my stilettos are 13 inches. Most of them. The automatics, that is. I think I even have a few 13-inch manual Italian or no, Kissing Crane stilettos, and a couple of Italian AKC stilettos, if I remember right. It's been a long time since I looked at the stilettos. I collected these back in the 80s. This is a very old knife. Even though it's a swivel bolster knife, it's when they first, I don't know when they first came out with the Italian swivel bolsters. It might have been the 70s, but I bought these in the late 80s. I was into these and collecting the manual stilettos. They were like some of the first knives I start really getting into collecting, where I was just collecting them and not using them. And I just collected them because I thought they were cool. I've always liked Italian switchblades, Italian stiletto switchblade stilettos. And at one point I had a whole bunch of these, but I sold a bunch of them. Because I just had too many of them. I didn't need to have as many as I had. And I kept my favorites. I like the bullhorn scales the best. What you doing, sweetie? What you doing? Let's see what Papa doing. Let's see what Papa doing. Well, you guys know Juno. You guys know Juno. The little video YouTube star. Always wants to get in everybody's videos. Alright. And so this is Armando Beltrami. And this one's AKC, Automatic Knives Company. And it's an Angela Campolone design. The traditional Italian stilettos are pretty much, all the makers make knives pretty much exactly the same way. And I don't know what the millimeter is on these. I want to say it's like 3 to 3.5 millimeters, somewhere around in there somewhere. But you can see how these are almost exactly the same. Really, the only difference is the labeling. What you doing? Let's see. And this is the AKC folder. It's a bolster release also. Dagger grind. And the longer the switchblade is, the heavier the blade. With these old style leaf springs, the slower it gets. And so, like, if you want to open one of these, if you want your springs less, it's always best to point them downwards, because it puts less stress on the spring. And when you store it, you store these open. You don't store them closed. You store them closed, the spring tension on your leaf spring will weaken and it'll even get slower. So it's always best to store these open. I store them in pouches like this. Put it in a pouch, store it completely open like that, close it up, zip it closed, put it in the safe with all the others. So these are never stored closed. And they have a safety, a slide safety right there, so when it's closed in your pocket, it won't go off in your pocket, and then when you want to open it, you have to release the safety, and then you can push the button to open it. These are sort of made to imitate the old pick locks, the old Italian pick locks. Pick lock was where you had to pick the lock up off of the blade to release it. That's how the pick lock worked. And I don't know what kind of steel that they used in these, but I don't think it was very good steel, because these don't really hold the edge that well. I don't use these at all, but I have had other ones in the past that I did actually use, and the edge would wear down really quick. And it's kind of hard to get it sharp. I don't know what kind of stainless steel it is. I'm going to guess it's like a 420 or something. You know, something at that level of stainless steel. I don't think it's even like a 440. I think it's more like a 420 type stainless steel. A softer stainless steel. And both of those are the swivel bolsters. These are the cold steels. And the difference between these and these, it depends on the models. Like, these are all basically the same, they just got different handle materials and different blade steels. This one right here is the all G10 version of the Cold Steel Ti-Lite, and this is the original one. When I got this one, it was supposed to be a special edition, and they weren't supposed to produce any more, and then they ended up making more. But anyway, I got two of these, and this is the one I used to carry. I got this one to carry, CTS-XHP. Stainless steel. You can still get the same knife right now, but now it'll have S35VN stainless steel instead of the CTS-XHP steel. This one right here is a S35VN example with the 7075 milled aluminum handles. And this has an EDP plating on the handles and the blade. This plating is extremely hard to get off. It wears very hard. It's a very nice knife. This one right here is the original Zytel type version. And this is what the handles look like. They look different than the new version. And personally, they sort of look like a tire tread. I don't know how to explain it. They weren't the most beautiful looking handles. But you know what? They function really well because you can put your finger right in this hole right here. And it gives you really good control of the knife. Whereas with the new ones, you can't do them like that because the holes are too small. But this one gives you a perch for your pinky finger. This knife is totally stock. It's one of my collectors. So it's a little bit stiff and stuff like this. It's like a brand new knife. It's not all loosened up and used. It's just been stored. It's a collector. All these knives are my collectors. None of these knives ever get used, except for this one. This one I did carry for a little bit. This is a new version of the Zytel handle. This is what you can get now. And I don't know if they're going to continue to make all these, because the only ones I see them making or posting on their website now is the new Kris with the Oz 10A stainless steel blade. I would like to get one of those too. Actually get a set, because I want to get the 4-inch one also. But they have these have a bayonet blade. All these have the same thickness of blade. They're all 4mm bayonet blade. These are right-handed knives, which kind of sucks for lefties. But the way that these are made, it's really just only could be on one side. They should have made these with for left-handed people too. That would have been cool. But they never did do that. The handle scales are Zytel. Stainless steel liners, fairly thick stainless steel liners. Zytel backspacer. This one has the Oz 8A stainless steel blade with the folded leaf spring lock, which is, and I'm not a liner lock person, but these liner locks are fairly strong. They're about, I would say they're, you know, I don't know, might be just as strong as like as a good button lock, like on a Hogue or something. Because I think the breaking point for these is usually around 150 pounds, in between 150 to 200 pounds before this lock will fail. Which means it's a fairly strong lock. It's not the triad lock, it's not a deadbolt lock, but it is strong. It's a lock that you can depend on. And the way that this liner lock is made, the way that it folds over, it covers a good portion of the blade tank. And the stainless steel that they use is heat treated and is fairly stiff. I used to carry this model of knife, not this one, but this model of knife for a long time, for several years. Every day. It was my EDC knife. It was my SDU EDC. Self-defense, utility, EDC. And I used it for everything. And that was before they came out with the triads, actually. Or was right around the same, it was a little bit before the triad, I think. If I remember right. Can't remember exactly. But anyway, this is the next one. And these are the newest models of Cold Steel Ti-Lites. And actually this one might be a real collector item. I mean, it's already a collector item because it's a special edition Len Thompson knife. But they're still making these, but they're making them with the Oz 10, and they're not special edition knives, and they're not serial numbered like these were. This is number 151. I think my lowest number one of these is like a 67 or something like that. And then 154 I customized. I bought 3 of these when they first came out. I knew they were going to be awesome. This has a 440C blade. And it's supposed to be a Filipino style Kris. I absolutely love this blade. And it has a super thick tip. Nicely reinforced tip. This is not a weak blade. And it is sharp. I would never, if I was to carry one of these all the time, I would never use it. I would just save it for self-defense purposes. The reason being is that I wouldn't want to have to resharpen it. I don't know, that looks like it'd be a pain in the butt to resharpen. But they got this one razor sharp. Absolutely love it. 440C. The newest ones are going to be made out of Oz 10. And they won't be the special edition ones. They won't be all labeled like this by Lindsey Thompson and all that. And they won't be serial numbered. So I think these are going to be highly collectible. I think those are going to be highly collectible. If you can still find one of these somewhere, I would buy it. I would buy it because I think it's going to be a very good collectible knife. All right, well that's these. Got CTS-XHP example with the G10, all G10. This is the most valuable one out of all the Ti-Lites right now at this point. But even though that this one is made out of lesser materials, because it's serial numbered and has Lynn C. Thompson's signature on it, and the boxes are even signatured by Lynn C. Thompson, I think these are going to probably be the most valuable ones out of all of them in the long run. When I say long run, I mean like 10 years from now. 5 to 10 years from now, I think these are going to be very, very, very collectible. Even though they may still be making them, they won't be making them like this no more. With the serial numbers, and this is out of 440C, the new ones are Oz 10. And Oz 10 might, be a better steel than 440C. But the thing is that they only did this for 1 year. Or one batch even, because I think they only made 2,000 of these. So, I think these are going to be valuable. I think they're going to be valuable. I think they're going to be highly collectible. And as you guys know, I took one and modified it. And 154 got pimped. I took the handle scales from this one. This was an Oz 8 aluminum handled knife. Oz 8A aluminum handled knife. It was one of my older collectors. I had more than one of them. So I took the handle scales off of this one, flip-flopped it with this one. And I took the handle scales and I polished them. And I sort of like these like this with the EDP. Is that right? EPD, electric plated discharge or discharge plating or whatever it is. But I sort of like this blade finish with the black hardware with the OD green scales. I think it looks cool. And it's non-glare, so it's tactical. Looks like a really cool knife. And the parts swap perfectly. And this one's been a little bit modified because I did my thing with it where I gave it some Teflon washers with the bronze phosphor washers, custom washers that I have. So it's a little bit snappier than a stock one. It opens really easily. All the ones I modified, they're all like that. This one is too. It's got Teflon and bronze phosphorus washers. I don't know if you remember what I was opening these like, but you can see what this is like. It's like instant. And these fly out way faster than any Switchblade. It makes these things look slow to me. To me, I don't know, I have a bunch of Italian Switchblades. And to me, the old Italian Switchblades are cool. They're nostalgic. I love them. But to me, they're collectors now. Because the steels that they were using are inferior compared to the steels like, I don't even think it's like 420, what do you call it, high carbon like Buck uses. I don't even think it's like that. I don't think it's like the old 420J steel that the Japanese used to use in all their knives back in the day. I don't know what kind of steel it is, but it's not a steel that I would want to use for cutting chores or have to depend on or whatever. Because the steels nowadays are so much better than the steels that they had back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s. It's like the steels that since the 2000s, steel has gone crazy. They've come out with the powdered steels, and they've just been making some really awesome steels nowadays for knives. So, as far as like the old knives are concerned, I love these. I love these. These are the ones I've liked all my life since I was like a a young kid. Since I saw West Side Story, I think it was, and it was with the Jets and the Sharks, Switchblade knife fight. But like a lot of the old movies from the 1950s and stuff like that, with James Dean and the Wild Ones, or I don't know, a whole lot of those old movies. People had switchblades and stuff. I just always grew up thinking switchblades were cool. But I come from a different era than most of the people probably watching this video. I don't know. But switchblades used to be the switchblade. That was like the no-no knife. That was like the bad boy knife. Only people that carried switchblades were gangsters and thugs. You know what I'm saying? And so, but to me, it was just, I don't know. It's just I've always been attracted to stilettos and Italian style stilettos. That's the reason why I always like the Ti-Lite 6s. Because to me, this is like a modern day Italian stiletto. You know what I'm saying? If they were to instead of making these like they made them back in the 50s and the 40s or whatever, in the 1960s and 70s, if they'd switched them over to modern materials and using modern locking systems that are probably stronger or whatever, they probably would have came out with something like this. But the thing I don't like about these, and I do love about these, is that all the old Italian stilettos were always fancy. They would have like pearled handle scales and acrylic handle scales, different color acrylics and bone and I don't know, just all different kinds of wood, exotic woods and stuff like that. And a lot of the more expensive stilettos would have like silver bolsters. They would have like solid silver bolsters and real thick blades too. A lot of times they would come like a 5mm thick blades on the more expensive ones. These are the ones that you were able to get like for under $100 back in the day. Switchblades were always expensive too back in the day. They cost more than like a buck knife. A buck knife you can back in the day get for under $50, and these were costing like $80, $90, $100. Even though a buck knife is made a whole lot stronger and better than this. These, I think people just like the fact they were a switchblade. And not everybody was making switchblades back then. You know what I mean? They didn't have Microtech didn't exist. Cold steel didn't exist. And a lot of the manufacturers that are making knives now, they just didn't exist. Benchmade didn't exist. Back in the day when they were making these things and buck knives. Buck knives they were making since the 60s. I think they started probably making these like in 1930s or 40s, around in there sometime. I want to say it's like around World War II. And they basically haven't changed. They might have gotten even a little cheaper and stuff because they were making a lot of these for tourists and stuff, people that would go to Italy. That's what I understand. I talked to Angela Campolone because I used to sell these, not these, but I used to sell a lot of Angela's knives on eBay. But I would sell the manual versions, not the automatics. You weren't allowed to sell the automatics. I would sell the automatics on Blade Bid. It was an auction site that was created by PVK, I think it was, back in the day. I would sell a lot of those things on there. That and balisongs. I was into balisongs too. I absolutely love these. But as you can see, the dimensions, the blade stock on these, I would say it's probably like 3.3 millimeter, maybe 3.5. This is a 4mm blade stock, so it's a lot thicker. Let me see if I can show you guys. Yeah, that side this is 3.5. It's a little bit thicker than I thought. Compared, this one's a 4mm. Maybe if I put it on, I'll show you on one of these, it might show it better. And other than that, that's about all I could say about these. These were made, I don't know. Angelo told me that back in the day when when people used to carry switchblades and stuff like that, they would carry them as like self-defense weapons, because like Italy, I guess, has a lot of alleys and they'd have good lighting and stuff like that, and people would rob people, and so people would carry knives as self-defense weapons. And if you used one of these, if you didn't want to get in trouble, you would throw it into the water, into the ocean or whatever, and get rid of it. So these were meant to be disposable. Once you used it, you threw it away. That's what Angelo told me. I don't know how true that is or whatever. I don't know if he was just telling me a story. I don't know. I believe him though. I believe him though, because these are sort of made. They're not like made like super greatly. Like you can get switchblades where they put a whole lot of effort and finishing into them, but these are sort of like do look like they were made to be disposable. I don't know. I never bought one of the Latima. I think that's how you say it, Latima switchblades, and those are like the higher end Italian switchblades. Always wanted to get one of those. I never did get one of those. The Armando Beltrami, Frank Beltrami, and Angela Campolone, they're all in Maniago, Italy. And all their knives look identical to each other pretty much. Especially these, like this series, like back in the 80s and 90s or whatever. Their knives look pretty much the same. This one right here is, I think it's Armando. Yeah, it's Armando Beltrami. AB means Armando Beltrami. Another dagger grind with the bone handle, swivel bolster. I brought this one out just to compare the sizes. To me, this size is the perfect size to carry. I love 11-inch folders. And this is what this is. This is the 11-inch. And to me, 11-inch fits in your pocket nicely, conceals nicely, but it's still long enough to be very good for self-defense. I like it better. I like this size better than the 13, and these are faster because they don't weigh the blade doesn't weigh as much as the 13-inch one. I've always thought these were the perfect size. I have another example here to show you, and this is a custom one that was built by Frank Beltrami. And this one does have the solid bolsters, and these are nickel silver instead of stainless steel. Nickel silver with the bone handle scales. And this one has a bayonet blade. It's labeled Frank Beltrami. It's one of his. It's one of my prize collectors. It's one of the ones that's probably worth the most out of my Italian switchblades. This was a special edition knife. And it's the 11-inch. With the bayonet blade, very similar to the same blade that Cold Steel uses. Bayonets were probably the most the bayonet and what they called a standard blade were probably the most common. Standard was like a flat ground stiletto style blade. But it was flat ground. It wasn't saber ground. This is a saber ground bayonet blade. Now that's my Frank B. And let me see what else I got to show you guys. This is the very first run and type of Cold Steel Ti-Lite. This one right here. I bought this one, I think it was in 2001, something like that. And it has titanium handle scales. The handles are made out of titanium. The leaf spring's made out of titanium. And I think the blade's Oz 8. I'm not sure what it is. I can't remember. But it's made, this knife was made in Seiki, Japan. These were the first Ti-Lites. This was a 9-inch knife. They didn't have a Ti-Lite 6 yet. And the other Ti-Lite that they had, that they came out with next when they went to Taiwan, left Japan, were these. And this one were the ones that came out at the same time. They looked like this and like this. This was the first Ti-Lite 6. And they still make these, I'm pretty sure. But I'm not sure if they're still making them out of Oz 8A. This one's Oz 8A. Because I want to say I've seen them made out of 440C. I'm not sure. Because these are the only two small ones I have. Because I'm not really into the small Ti-Lites. I like the big ones. I like the big Ti-Lites. Not the small ones. I like the big ones. The big boys. Where can we put you in here? Put you in. Go this way, huh? And my other one that you haven't, this was my first Ti-Lite 6 blade. This is the blade for my first Ti-Lite 6. The blade, the liners, and the back spacers came out with my first Ti-Lite 6. And it was a Zytel Ti-Lite. And then I customized it with, I bought a beat up Ti-Lite on eBay way back when that had the 7075 aluminum handle scales. And this is the handle scales from it. And then I sanded them down, and I got tired of sanding them because it's so hard to do. Because that EDP plating, it does not like to come off. It does not like to come off. It's extremely hard. The way I got them off of this one was with a chemical bath. But this one, I tried to do it with sandpaper, you know, with wet sandpaper, and it was just like taking forever, and I got tired. It feels nice and smooth, though. It feels really good. And so I just polished it out when I got to this spot, because look at it like a worn look to it, and I sort of liked it like that. But this blade's been totally polished out, because it's been messed up several times, and I totally redid the blade. But this is probably my fastest one. Because this one's the most worn out. And you know what? It's just got a tiny tick. Just a tiny, tiny tick. And I've had this one for I don't know how long. Whenever the Ti-Lite 6s first came out, that's when I got this. I got this one and this one. When the Ti-Lite 6s first came out. These two right here I've had a very long time. This one I've had the longest. For 20 years now. Yeah. It's wild when you think about it. And this one came out when I bought this one too. So this one, this one, this one, and this one are my oldest. Now this group. But this one I probably will play with the most because I don't worry about wearing it out because it's already worn out. But I love it though. And I love the Ti-Lites. The Ti-Lites are badass. And you know that, right, Keith? You know these what these can do. Ti-Lites are awesome. And me, I am not a liner lock person. The only liner lock knife I pretty much like is the Ti-Lites. Because I like this strong folded over lock. I have total faith in this lock because I carried this knife for a long time. This one right here is the one I carried. Carried it for a long time. The one I carried it had Zytel scales on it. I didn't have these scales on it. All right, people. I think that's about it. I think that's about it, huh? Let's do this like this, huh? Let the small ones go together. Actually, it should be like this. Aluminum handles, Zytel handles, G10 handle. Right. All right. Armando Beltrami. Armando. I always want to say Alberto. Armando Beltrami. AKC, Angelo Campolone. Frank B. Frank Beltrami. Armando Beltrami. Original Ti-Lite with titanium handle scales. Original Zytel Ti-Lite. Original G10 Ti-Lite. Original Zytel Ti-Lite. Newer generation of Ti-Lite. Ti-Lite 6 with Zytel handles. And now these, I guess, these would be the older generation of the Kris with the Zytel handles, because I don't think they have the 440C no more, and they're not going to have the labeled blades anymore. So these are already discontinued. But the only one I see them making anymore are these with the Oz 10. And they're making them in the Ti-Lite 6 size and the 9-inch size. But they're not making none of these. All these are gone. So these might become collectible too. I don't know. Because I know that there's millions of Ti-Lites out there. There may not be so many of these and so many of these. But the rest of them, especially the Zytel ones, there's a ton of Zytel ones out there. All right. Well, that's about all I got for you today. I hope this is good enough for you there, Keith. Hope you enjoy this one. I probably went way too long. But anyway, peace out. Stiletto. Have a great day.